In Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." Years ago, along the coast, they used to put lighthouses to warn ships that they were getting too close to the rocks on the shore. And of course, the lighthouse would save a lot of ships, especially if it was dark or stormy. Save a lot of ships from being ruined, and many lives being lost on the rocks and in the waves. Now Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." There's a bigger danger than being shipwrecked and drowned at sea. The bigger danger is going to everlasting fire. Now, how are people going to know the right way? Well, they can read the Bible, they can come to church and hear the preaching, and that's good, but a lot of people never will do either one of those things. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." If the people of the world are going to find out what God expects, they'll find out from watching Christians, real Christians. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." Christians who obey Jesus' commandments show the world what God is like, and they show the world what God expects of us. You are the light of the world, Jesus said. Now, it seems like some people don't want to admit that Jesus is Lord and has any right to tell us what to do. Like we have freedom, and so we don't have to obey. Hey, Jesus said in the Great Commission, "You go and make disciples, baptize them, baptize disciples, and teach them to obey all the things I have commanded you." Jesus said, "And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world." We are supposed to obey. We're supposed to teach others to obey. And so here in Matthew chapter 5, Jesus said, "You are the light of the world." We're supposed to show people the way, not just by our preaching and not just by our teaching, but by our lives, by our obedience. Let me say it again. Jesus has given us some commands. He's Lord. Oh, I counted more than 700 commands in the New Testament. Jesus said, "Go and make disciples." A disciple is someone who has forsaken all to follow Jesus. He says, "You go make disciples and baptize them, baptize disciples, and then teach them to observe all things that I have commanded you." Now, let's look at some of Jesus' commands in the Sermon on the Mount. Now, before we do, I just want to remind you, Jesus said, if anybody breaks one of these least commands, Jesus said he will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does these commands, obeys these commands, and teaches other people to obey them, he will be great in the kingdom of heaven. Who's going to be great? Those who obey Jesus' commands and teach other people to obey them. Who's going to be called least in the kingdom of heaven? Those people who don't think it's important to obey, and they teach other people that they don't have to obey. No, Jesus doesn't. You don't have to obey that. No, we're free. No, teach them to observe, to obey all that I've commanded you, Jesus said. Now, he begins, he says, "You've heard, thou shalt not kill. And whoever kills will be in danger of the judgment." Jesus said, "But I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother will be in danger of the judgment. Whoever says to his brother, 'You fool,' will be in danger of hellfire. Now, suppose let's suppose we're playing a game of soccer, and someone accidentally hurts you, and here they feel so stupid. Well, boy, you are so angry. You see how angry we can get, about to boil over. Whoever's angry with his brother, Jesus says, will be in danger of the judgment. And whoever says to his brother, you fool, will be in danger of hellfire. Now, if somebody has something against us, we're supposed to make it right quickly, Jesus said. Agree with your adversary quickly. Don't wait. Especially don't take him to court, the Lord says. Now, suppose someone has something against us, and we're going to bring an offering. Now, they used to bring offerings on altars. Here's how we often do it. We'll be sitting in church, in the pews, the benches, and the offering plate comes around, and here we're holding the offering plate or the offering basket. And let's just suppose you're about to put in a nice offering, some money. But there you remember you're about to give that offering, and here is what you're thinking. You're thinking how you've hurt someone, or maybe how you took something. There's a boy, he gets into his mother's purse or pocketbook and gets some money out. Now, a while later, he's in church, and he remembers what he has done. He has wronged his mother. Does God want his offering? The answer is no, God does not want his offering now. Jesus said, leave your offering there. You can read this in Matthew chapter 5. First be reconciled to your mother, then come and offer your gift. My wife and I have some good friends. The wife was telling me years ago, she heard me preaching on this subject. Oh goodness, this has been 30 years ago. And she was convicted about how when she was just a teenager, how she had stolen a little bit of money from her mother. She thought it was about maybe $7 or less. And so she was just to make sure she was going to pay back. But she wasn't just going to pay back the $7. She was going to do like Zacchaeus did and pay back 4 times as much. And so she didn't have a job. Now she's married, she's a mother, and she's taking care of her children. The Bible says women are supposed to be keepers at home. But now how's she going to get some money to pay back what she stole from her mother years before? Well, every time she cleaned, if she found a little bit of money under the cushion of the couch or somewhere, she saved it up until finally she had $28. She went back and gave it to her mother. Her mother said, no, you did not have to do this. But she said, yes, I did. You see, she had done wrong, and she's making it right. Her husband told me on a different occasion. He was working in the church, and he had said something wrong and angry, I think, and hurt someone. I think they had probably done maybe worse to him, but his concern was not what they did. His concern was what he himself did. And his name was Steve. He got up out of church, went out to the parking lot, got in his car, or maybe it was a church bus or van, and drove way out in the country and went to that person's house. He had wronged them. He made it right. He apologized for how he had wronged them. He did not demand that they get their lives right. He had to get his own life right. And then he could come back into church. Nothing between my soul and the Savior. Have you wronged someone? Have you stolen? Or did you borrow and you've been too careless and too dishonest to pay back what you borrowed? Have you said something that hurt someone? Leave your gift. God does not want your gift. Forget about singing that special number. First, make it right with the person you have wronged. And then Jesus speaks about another subject, about the sin of adultery. He said, you've heard that it's been said, thou shalt not commit adultery. Now, you remember, in the law of God, if a man was caught committing adultery, he and the woman were taken and were stoned to death. Man, that's pretty strict. Yes, but you see, the soul that sinneth, it shall die, the Word of God says. That shows how serious the sin of adultery is. Yes, but listen to what Jesus said. Jesus said, but I say unto you that whoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart. Man, Jesus, his standard is a good bit higher than the law of Moses. The law of Moses, if a man and woman go to bed together, they commit adultery physically. Jesus' standard is so much higher. Jesus said, if you look on a woman to lust after her, you've committed adultery with her already in your heart. And then Jesus said this. He said, if your eye offend you, pull it out and throw it away. Be better to enter into life with only one eye than to keep both eyes and be cast into hell fire. He said, if your hand offend you, cut it off. Cut it off? Man, that'd be terrible. Well, it's not as bad as going down to hell. The person who's just going to persist on sinning with their hand or just keep on and on sinning with their eyes, it'd be better to pull it out and throw it away and still go to heaven than to keep both eyes, both hands, and be cast into hell. You see, the first step in sexual sin is what? Well, it's looking. The next step is what? It's touching. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. If your hand offends you, cut it off. Be better to enter into life with only one eye, with one hand, than to keep both eyes and be cast into hell fire. You see how serious it is? We better be sure we have changed our mind about our sinful ways. You don't want to go down to hell where the worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. Jesus is talking about the sin of adultery, and then he gives another application. He said, you've heard this been said, don't commit adultery, but I say unto you that whoever divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery. In Mark chapter 10, he says, whoever divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery. And then Jesus said, and if a woman divorces her husband, marries another man, she commits adultery. And 2 or 3 times Jesus also said, whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now people say, no. Whoever breaks one of these least commands and teaches men so, he will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys these commands and teaches them will be great in the kingdom of heaven. Now, suppose someone takes an oath. Now, to join certain types of organizations, sometimes secret organizations, sometimes others, you have to take an oath. Swear certain oaths. Jesus said, swear not at all. Don't take those oaths. If you mean yes, just say yes. That's enough. If you mean no, say no. That ought to be enough for one of God's people. God's people ought to be dependable, so when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. And then what about if somebody hurts you? Jesus said, if somebody hits you on one cheek, turn the other also. Well, now watch. Suppose someone is so angry, they slap you on the side of the face, and here's what you're seeing. You're seeing stars. What are you going to feel like doing? Well, let me draw a picture, and you tell me if I'm drawing it right. Is this what you feel like doing? Here's the person who hurt you, and here's you. And here's what they're saying. And here's what you're saying. Did I get it right? What you feel like doing? Well, you may feel like doing that, but Jesus said no. Someone hit you on one cheek. He didn't say teach them to never do it again. He said turn the other cheek. maybe need to change this picture right here. We were at a camp a few weeks ago, and this time it was not boys, it was two girls. And one of them just hit the other one, and boy, you talk about anger. And boy, they wanted to, I think, claw each other's eyes out. No, if you're going to follow Jesus, there's going to be a whole different way of living and thinking. Whoever hits you on one cheek, turn the other also. Jesus said, don't resist him that is evil. Now he goes on. Suppose somebody takes away your coat. I mean, that's wrong. He shouldn't take your coat away. Jesus said, okay, go ahead and give him another one too. Man, that's different. He's stealing one, you're going to give him another one? Another place he said, they take your stuff, don't ask for it again. He said if they try to make you go a mile, go with them 2 miles. In the time of Jesus, sometimes these soldiers, Roman soldiers, could force a person to carry their baggage. And so here's someone, he's busy going about his own work, and this soldier comes up and he forces him to carry his suitcases for him. Well, if he goes a mile, that's going to take 20 or 30 minutes walking, carrying a load. But Jesus said, go 2 miles. Well, that's going to be 40 minutes or maybe an hour. But then, when you get there, you're 2 miles out of your way. That's going to take a long time. You may spend an hour and a half. Whoever breaks one of these least commands and teaches men so, he'll be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them, he will be great in God's kingdom. Then Jesus said, love your enemies. Bless those that curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who despitefully use you. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you know someone who has hurt you? Think about the person. Maybe it's somebody yesterday. Maybe it's somebody today. Maybe it's last week. Maybe it's a long time ago. Someone hurt you. Are you thinking of who that is? Or have you lent to someone and they have not returned what you lent? Maybe it's a long time ago. If you've lent to people, you probably know that many times you'll never see it again. Jesus said, lend, hoping for nothing again. Someone said, I just make a rule, I don't lend to anyone because I lose my money and I lose their friendship. Well, a better way is to do what Jesus said. Lend, hoping for nothing again. If you've lent and they haven't paid you back, what can you do? Have you lost their friendship? Maybe not. Jesus said, he taught us to pray and forgive us our debts. You can see this in Matthew 6, in the Lord's Prayer. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. They owe you some money. They've been owing it for months. If you go to them or you write them a letter or you call them and say, just consider that what you owed me paid. I bet they won't. I bet you may not lose their friendship after all, you see. Because God is not going to forgive me if I don't forgive those who wrong me. Jesus specifically said that 3 times in Matthew 6, in Mark 11, and in Matthew 18 as well. If we don't forgive others who've wronged us, God won't forgive us either. Oh man, I need to have God forgive me. I'm not in any kind of condition to face God without his forgiveness. And you're not either. we better be sure that we're obeying Jesus' commands. For if you don't forgive others, Jesus said God won't forgive you either. Now, I've asked you, is there someone who's wronged you? Is there someone who hurt someone that you love? Is there someone who has borrowed from you and never has paid back? Is there someone who has cursed you? Well, listen to what Jesus said. Watch. Here's someone, that person is so angry at you, here's you. They have said some things that no one should say. I won't write them out exactly, but you know what he's saying. I couldn't say the words right on television. I couldn't write them out here, but you know what it is. Has someone cursed you? Has someone said some evil things? Has someone hurt you and the person did it on purpose? They despitefully used you. What did Jesus say do? He said, love them. Is there something good you can do for that person? Maybe give them a gift in secret. Don't do it publicly. Don't tell everybody what you're doing. Give them a nice present. That would make them ashamed. That would heap coals of fire on their head. Bless your enemies. They have cursed you. Why don't you ask for God's blessing on them? Ask God to bless that person. Bless his family. Bless her family. Ask God to give them a good day. Ask God to give her a good day. Love your enemies. Bless those who curse you. Do good to those who hate you. And pray for those who despitefully use you. Why don't you go kneel down, bow down before the Lord. Think about that person who has wronged you, that person who owes you money, that person who has hurt someone you love, that person who has cursed you, and ask God to bless them. You see, that's the way God treated us. We've done a lot of sins against God. You know, our sins are the reason Jesus had to die in a bloody, violent death. Whose fault was it Jesus died? Well, it was not just the Jews. It was not just the Romans. It was our fault. And God loved us in spite of all the evil things we've done. And he expects us to treat others the same way. Ask God to bless that person. God has blessed us. We didn't deserve it. Well, we can love others even if they don't deserve it. You see, if we do this, if we're kind like that, then we'll be acting like the Lord. It says, he makes his sun to shine on the evil and on the good and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. Now, watch, here's a couple of gardeners. On one side, there's the garden of a godly man. He loves the Lord. He's kind to his wife and his children. And he plants some corn, some maize in his garden. And he plants some other things in his garden. Now, you know his garden is going to need some rain. Would God send rain on that good man's garden? Yes, God sends him rain. Beside him lives a wicked man. He's drunk. He's cruel to his wife, all of his wives that he's had. He's cruel to his children. Some of them don't even know him. He's lived in sexual sin with so many women. He curses God. He mistreats God's people, and he also has a garden. Would God send rain on a wicked man's garden like that? Well, the truth is, many times he does. God is kind to the unthankful. Next time it rains, see if that man's yard or his garden is wet. God is kind to the good and he's kind to the bad. And he's commanding us to be the same way. Look, anybody can be nice to someone who's nice to you. Watch. There are people, when I see them, I can greet them, and they're good to me, and I like them, and it's not even hard. It's not hard to love them. But can I be friendly and kind to the person who hates me, who's spoken bad about me, who's angry with me? Can I be kind to them? Yes, I can, and you can too. God expects more of us. He said, you are the light of the world. Watch. Just like this lighthouse is going to give warning to ships coming too close to the land, so our lives are to give warning to people of the world who don't know what God expects and God requires. You're the light of the world. We're going to show them the way to live, show them what God expects by what we do. They'll see our good works and glorify the Father which is in heaven. And I'll say again, there's a greater danger than waves and rocks of the sea. There's a danger of everlasting fire. And if we'll show people God's mercy by being kind even to the people who are evil to us, then people will see God's mercy. If we'll live a holy life, not just refraining from outward adultery, but not allowing the lust in our hearts to turn away when we are tempted. Anybody's tempted. Jesus was tempted by adultery. I know he was, because the Bible says he was tempted in all points like as we are. But he did not give in to it. And we don't need to give in to it, either by our actions or by welcoming those thoughts and living in those thoughts and looking at pornographic pictures and looking at immodestly dressed women. If we're going to follow Jesus, there'll be a big change. We'll turn from those sins. We're the light of the world. By our example, we can show people what God has commanded. You are the light of the world.